Good afternoon, everybody. We're glad to have you with us today. We'd like to welcome you on behalf of the Lenoir City Council and the citizens of the Lenoir and Caldwell County. This is a very special day as we gather to dedicate this wonderful piece of art to our city and county. It is fitting today that we celebrate this earth-cast sculpture that was molded and then raised from the grounds of this historic property. We also celebrate, in the last several weeks ago, the Council of the City of Lenoir officially named this park the Blackwelder Sculpture Park in honor of the healthcare facilities that once stood on this site. Blackwelder Hospital, Blackwelder Pharmacy, the home and office of Dr. Caroline McNary, and others who cared for our citizens of Lenoir and Caldwell County for many years stood on this site. I personally have a great respect for it because I was born in this hospital several years ago, won't tell you how long, and Dr. McNary delivered me into this world and cared for my mother, so I have a very special place in my heart for the property we stand on. In the near future, we hope to see this special care return to this property in the form of health care again, and we'll look forward to that. This sculpture across the grain is a historical reminder of how this community was formed and what it took for the citizens of this community to build it. As you view this piece, you may see it in different ways. Some see it as a saw, some as a wheel, some others will see it as a water wheel that we use to make for the grist mills that we had in this area. Some see it as a gear from our furniture factories and others. If you look closely at the seal of the city of Lenoir, inside you will see a piece that's a cog. It's part of what makes up the seal of this city. The factory, the book, the lyre, the background of High Brighton Mountain, and then the cog. The cog symbolizes the rapid growth of Lenoir and Caldwell County over the past 160 years of our existence. This rapid growth provided new jobs, more industry, ample workforce, better schools, and stronger governments. But however you see this piece, to me it represents the strength, the courage, the never say die spirit that this community possesses. The willingness to always get the job done no matter what it takes. That's the attitude that makes our community the special place that we all love. Thomas, I know you're going to tell us more about the development of this sculpture today and how it became across the grain. But first, we would like to say thank you for this special and wonderful honor that you have bestowed on our city and county by choosing our community to construct this historical piece. If you will, I'd like for you to join me for a minute up here. Whoa, whoa. Careful. I don't want to hurt it. Thomas, on behalf of the City Council of the City of Lenoir and all of the citizens of Lenoir and Caldwell County, I'd like to present this proclamation to you, which I will read at this time. Whereas Thomas Sayre is a renowned international sculptor who has built public art projects all over the world using a technique called earth casting. And whereas Thomas Sayre designed a unique sculpture for the city of Lenoir and Caldwell County entitled Across the Grain. And whereas Thomas Sayre is being honored and recognized today for his contribution to all the citizens of Lenoir and Caldwell County for this magnificent work of art. Now, therefore, be it known that I, Joseph L. Gibbons, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Lenoir, North Carolina, and on behalf of the City Council and all the citizens, do hereby confer the title of honorary citizen upon Mr. Thomas Sayre.
Thank you.
In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city to be affixed. Thomas, We are glad to have you as a citizen of our community.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Thank you.
And I have one more. We're not going to let you go yet. And as part of that, as an ambassador all over the country, I would like to present you the key to the city. It doesn't open anything.
It doesn't open your office?
Doesn't open my office. But we would love for you to have this and as a special honor, and we thank you for all that you have done for this community. Very special. Thank you. You're more than welcome. I'll let you, yes. Thank you. Thomas, it has been a pleasure having you in our community, getting to know you as a friend, and now as an honorary citizen of our city, the All-America City of Lenoir. Before I leave, I have one more special honor I would like to do as we move on into these festivities today. And I would like Lee Carroll Geddes to join me on the podium.
Tell me about this.
I slipped this one in on you. Lee Carroll, on behalf of the City Council of Lenoir and all the citizens of Lenoir and Caldwell County, we would like to express our appreciation to you for your vision, for your hard work, and for your dedication in bringing this wonderful project to Lenoir and Caldwell County. We are extremely proud of our Arts Council, our arts community, and the wonderful collection of sculpture pieces that adorn our city and county. You have always represented our community with great pride, and you have served as a vital part in Lenoir's selection as an All-America City in 2008. It is with great pleasure that I, as Mayor of the City of Lenoir, would present you this key to the city and thank you for being the great ambassador that you are for our community.
Well, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. I would be remiss to not begin by thanking the many people who have helped us get to this day. I think there may not be a city employee who hasn't had a hand in this project. From firemen and policemen to electricians and backhoe operators to office employees and parks and recreation staff and everyone in between. I know each of you get a bit nervous when you see me coming, wondering what my next strange request is going to be, but you've always responded with hard work and enthusiasm. My special thanks to the patrons, many who are with us today, of this project, who had the vision and made this happen. You believed in a concept, and your donations helped to make this a reality. And my thanks to the community, children and adults, you guys, who have been on site throughout the creation of this sculpture and this park, who've watched on the webcam and in person, and who have cheered this project along. Thank you all. So you know who has gotten us here and how we did, So you know who's gotten us here, but how did we get here? It's funny how the most casual of statements can grow into the largest of projects. Over a year ago, I was at a meeting with Thomas Sayre where he made the comment, "I'm ready to do a project for a community where it could make a difference." Well, it took about 5 seconds for me to say, "How about Caldwell County?" That simple conversation evolved into meetings throughout our community. People got excited, and before we knew it, we had a site, we had funding, we had enthusiastic support, and now we have a sculpture and a park. We also have energy in what was an unloved part of this town. If you look around, you see new offices going up above Sweet Teas and Hogwaller. You see the backside of the new brewery and distillery, as well as event and meeting site. Down the street, if you were to go down College Avenue, we have the amazing Unity Park and Community Gardens. And the lots adjoining this site are ripe for development. This downtown is growing in a positive way, and the arts have been a part of that. No one knows better or cheers louder for the role of the role that our cultural resources play in our communities than Linda Carlisle, Secretary of the North Carolina Department of Cultural Resources. I had the privilege of meeting Secretary Carlisle soon after she accepted this position in 2009. With her strong background in business, I have to admit I wondered, will she get the arts? Will she understand how important cultural resources are? Is this just a political appointment? And then I met a fireball. I met a woman who truly believed in the arts and their value. I met a woman who didn't just believe, but who was a cheerleader and a bulldog for the arts and culture. I've watched Secretary Carlisle show amazing leadership and tenacity in keeping the arts and culture front and center in conversations on the economic future of our state. Secretary Carlisle, thank you for your work, your leadership, your passion, and for being with us today.
Wow, what a great place to be on Friday afternoon. And thank all of these young people for being here and the parents who brought them here and teachers, thank you. I've been called a lot of things, and cheerleader and bulldog sounds good to me. I have to tell you that it is a pleasure to be here. Lee Carroll is a treasure not only here in your community, but she's frankly a statewide treasure. She's recognized as a real leader in the arts. Her advice and counsel is sought. Her great ideas are copied, and we are grateful to have your leadership here. Thank you so much. And Mayor Gibbons, I have to say, you have a marvelous community. Good things are happening. We were talking about economic development earlier, and as I want to share some thoughts with you this afternoon, a little bit about the arts and economic development, because it does go together. I had the pleasure earlier this week of serving on a panel talking about the arts, and there were folks there on the national and international stage who understand and get that our arts, our culture, and our history makes a difference in our communities, and I am thrilled that in North Carolina we know that, we get it, and we're continuing to support the development and the encouragement of our arts as a key economic driver for us. One of the pleasures that I've had over the past 4 years is getting the chance to know some of our great leaders in this state and some of the wonderful artists. And so often you find that folks such as our artists are sometimes known much more outside their community than in their community. And I was just talking with Thomas's wife, Jed, a little earlier, and we were talking about the need to go on an international trip to visit Thomas's work all over the country and internationally as well. But you know, you don't have to do that. You can take that kind of trip all across North Carolina. Thomas has designed and built art projects all over the world, but we are very grateful and proud and fortunate to get to claim him as a North Carolinian. Isn't that wonderful, kids? Isn't that great? The dedication of this piece today is really a great honor. And I have to say that giving him honorary citizenship and a key to the city is the right thing to do, because I have been in so many settings where he has praised this community, praised the leadership here, and the giving nature of the people here who've made so many wonderful projects happen, and this is just the latest example of that. So he has been an ambassador, and I know will continue to be an ambassador for you. Thomas has been coming to Lenoir ever since his days as a young artist, when he competed in the second ever sculptural celebration right here in 1986. And some 20 years later, he was invited back to serve as the judge at that celebration. And then we have today. So I think this is indeed a full circle as we talk about Thomas. This latest work stands ready to do what I think public art does best. It serves to intrigue the passerby. It serves as that unexpected moment and pleasure. It sparks discussion. It adds to an area's sense of place, and I'm already envisioning these children once we let them loose. I'm seeing their hands touching, feeling. I'm seeing their minds imagining and expanding, and that's what public art can do, frankly, in ways that other art forms can't. Public art is so special, and Lenoir deserves that place in our state as a leader in its public art, and I am so proud of what you've done here. When I first started talking about arts-driven economic development for our cities and towns across our state with the North Carolina Arts Council, there were a number of things that we knew were already givens in our state. First, our state's significant mix of traditional and contemporary arts has always represented an integral part of North Carolina's identity. It helps us in attracting new residents. It aids in our tourism efforts. It helps to attract creative workers and those cultural visitors who come here and come all across North Carolina to experience the unique qualities that we have. And as I visit towns and cities all across our state, I remind our communities that no one has to look like anybody else. I just came from Charlotte. They're doing great things in Charlotte, and I love it. But it's no greater than what's happening right here in Lenoir, because each community is unique and special, and when you celebrate that, that's when you have that sense of place that people enjoy visiting and coming back to. We know today that our creative industry in North Carolina accounts for almost 300,000 jobs. That's over 5.5% of our state's total employment. It's a major industry in North Carolina, and our arts have been a catalyst and a foundation for downtown and neighborhood revitalization since the 1980s. Today we know that the arts stimulate business activity, helps to increase our tourism revenue, helps to retain a high-quality workforce, and it provides our state and our cities and our towns with their global competitive edge. And that's what you're looking for, is to be able to attract people. Because one of the things that we know is that today more than ever, people look around a community and decide, is this a place where I want to live, where I can see my family growing and flourishing? And then they decide, is this a place that I could see myself working? So it's important to have that competitive answer. Those kinds of wonderful assets that we have has led the North Carolina Arts Council to look at a way to package the programs and the special assets and resources that we have, our public art, our community design, tourism, our state's assets, to focus on an arts-driven economic development program for our cities and towns. The result of that has been the SMART initiative, and that is SMART spelled with a capital A-R-T. And we just recently announced our first grants in this program. I'm very pleased to tell you that not only is Thomas a great artist, but he also gives so much of his time and his energy to his communities and to his state. And he served on our SMART Initiative Task Force, and it was a great voice on that. We are very excited about seeing this program expand and grow, because we know that it is our culture and our arts and our history that help to make our communities destination points. I want to thank Thomas and indeed all of our North Carolina artists, and we are indeed blessed, who help to serve as individuals whose talents and creativity help to make our communities very special. And so I thank them for what they do to add to our creative future. And this is just the latest example. Congratulations to all of you for being a part of making this happen. And children, I'm so glad you're here today. Thank you for being here. Thank you all.
The first time I saw this sculpture, it was a drawing on a napkin, and it only sort of looked like the piece we stand with today. That drawing came after a day of driving around Caldwell County with Thomas, looking at potential sites for large sculpture. Between then and now, I've learned that a sheep's foot packs dirt very densely, that there's good red clay and bad red clay with too much sand, that it takes a great deal of practice and a backhoe master to craft a form in the ground shaped like this, that webcams can be tricky and amazing, that a 90-ton crane is a very large piece of equipment. I've also watched a wonderful story unfold about an artist and a community. 1 year ago, the Caldwell Arts Council launched the Who is Thomas Sayre campaign. Our logo was that question encircled by a long list of cities around the world that own Thomas Sayre sculptures. I would say that most of you had no idea who Thomas Sayre was. But you came to learn that he was a respected and talented artist, that his childhood playground was the National Cathedral where his father was dean, that he journeyed to North Carolina as a Morehead scholar, and that he has a passion for Western North Carolina, having lived in these foothills early in his career as an artist. But you've learned more than that. From the minute the first backhoe scoop was made in the earth, you came to watch. You saw the earth dug and the form of this piece made. You waited patiently as the cement cured, and by the thousands, you watched it come out of the ground and rest in this permanent site. You watched this sculpture come from our own earth, and you came to know the man who created it. Thomas Sayre has become a familiar face in Caldwell County. You may have seen him dressed up for presentations throughout the county, but it's just as likely, or more likely, that you've seen him covered in red clay, or down in the hole digging with the other workers making this piece, or in his hard hat pacing the ground as the piece was lifted and moved. You've seen a frown of thought on his brow and a smile spread wide across his face. Time and again, I watched Thomas break from the work site to greet a friend, new and old, with a handshake or hug. You know Thomas Sayre. You recognize Thomas Sayre. He may have first shown up as the artist who was going to make a great big sculpture, but today I welcome him to speak as our friend, Thomas Sayre.
Well, a lot has been said about what this is very articulately. You all have learned a lot about earth casting, about all this stuff that created this. So I want to say just a few things that are from my heart. So earth casting, digging a hole, many of you watched it. We put concrete in a mold that we make with backhoes, feet, shovels. We put steel in that hole, we pour concrete in it, we let it cure, and then we lift it out, all 40,000 pounds of it. And I think some of you might have an idea of why would somebody do that. And the reason is, you can see it in the surface itself, that there is a balancing, a commingling, a cooperation between all those marvelous things that us humans are capable of doing, engineering and drawing and music, such as Patrick and his gang up the hill. All those things meet the grain of nature, that which was put there by nature, by God, by Yahweh, whatever word you want to use. And this piece is about that balance, which as a culture, as a society, we need to have, and over the last 150 years have not always been great at achieving that balance. The second thing that this is about is the spirit of this community, which many of you have already talked about. But my experience of that spirit was this. This county, Tier 1 county, more unemployment than the rest of the nation, of the state and the nation. There have been tough times here. These wheels, this wheel is about the old wheels, as the mayor said. It's also about the new wheels of the Bridge to Ridge bike competition that I've seen and heard about. The wheels of jet turbines going now to China to do furniture and bringing some jobs back here through that kind of wheel. And who knows what the new wheels are. But what I do know is this community, when approached with the idea of doing a massive piece of sculpture on city-owned land, said, why not? And chose to define itself by doing that than being depressed about the hardships that have existed and continue to exist here. I find that astounding. So this spirit is what I have to give thanks for, because that's what I encountered while working here in your midst for the last over a year. I constantly encountered a generosity, a curiosity, a helpfulness as opposed to the opposite of that. And the result of it is I had a waking dream. You know, I get to do these all around. And I'm privileged beyond belief to get paid enough of the time to pay for braces in the mouth of my children while doing stuff like this. The spirit of this place nourished me in ways that are hard to describe. I found you all inspirational to the point where this is one of my best pieces, and here it sits. And it takes, to do world-class art, it takes certainly a good artist, but it equally takes a world-class community that is willing to take the risk of this kind of project. We just had a lot of two conventions that we've all watched. And what I find rare in our society is true leadership. And in the form of Lee Carroll Gittes, in the form of your mayor, the city manager, of Charles Beck, who's over the sort of physical city, and many, many, many more. Keith Will, I mean, lots of people who worked on this. I found in those folk an ability, a willingness to take a risk and do something that doesn't quite compute. If you go to ASU and talk to, the Department of Urban Planning, if there is one, likelihood is they're not going to say, oh, you need to make a 40,000-pound sculpture in your midst and everything will be fine. You're probably not going to hear that. But you all did that in a wonderfully defiant kind of way. So what I'd like to leave you with is two thoughts. One is a waking dream I had that when I get to go around and do these pieces, I take Ricky Pierce, the backhoe man, I take my wonderful colleague Christian Carco, I take a few others. I now would like to take the entire city of Lenoir with me so that coffee would show up at 9:30 in the morning on a chilly morning to warm the crew up, and lunch would magically appear. And when I came to one of your restaurants, as I did every night, looking like a homeless person covered in mud, one time the whole restaurant got up and clapped and said, "How did it go today?" It doesn't get any better than that. The 1,000 school kids that came on the day of the lift, I've never seen that, and I've never experienced such, if I could use this word, love, that I have felt from you all. So, thank you, 1,000 thank yous. Amen.
Yay! You remember Ring Around the Roses? I think we're going to do our own form of that. We're going to gather around and gather hands. And Lee Carroll, are you and Thomas going to lead? Thomas is going to lead. We're going to dedicate right now this wonderful, wonderful piece of sculpture to all the citizens of Caldwell County, and by extension, to all of the citizens of the world who need to come here and experience it. I congratulate all of you who've had a part to play in this, and for the benefit of all of those who will come hereafter, we dedicate this to the citizens of Caldwell County. So if everyone will gather around and gather hands, I believe Thomas is going to lead us through.
Will the